So before we create the section, the last thing I want to do over here is just go ahead and extrude this tool upwards. So I'm just going to go into a different view, and for now I'm just going to go ahead and just just hide the work plane. So just go ahead and just choose this button over here, go to visibility, hide the work plane just to make things a little bit cleaner. And of course, I'm going to go ahead and just go into polygons. I'm going to select everything. So I'm middle clicking across. And of course, you'll notice that all my lines, my normals are pointing up. This is good. So next up, what I could do is I could just go ahead and bevel it or extrude it upwards. I have both tools under Mesh Edit or under Polygon. Bevel, of course, is here. And I think extrude should be in here somewhere as well. Anyways, I'm basically just going to go into Mesh Edit, and I'm going to go ahead and extrude, and I'm going to click in the viewport, and I'm going to extrude this object upwards. And for now, I'm really not concerned about the actual extrusion, but just about this much will do. Of course, when I try to tab it, you'll notice that it is looking fairly ugly, but that's okay because right now I really don't care about that. So this portion of the wrench is done for now. I'm going to go ahead and just work on this section here. Now, first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and just make sure I'm in polygon mode. I'm going to select these polygons here, and I'm going to go ahead and just use the bevel tool. So Mesh Edit or Polygon, and go ahead and just choose the bevel tool and bevel outwards. Now, one thing that I should note, and that is if you're beveling and you want to make sure that this is beveling us out straight, you have to make sure that these polygons are perfectly flat on one axis. So if I go ahead and just undo this, what I have to make sure is that if I have something like this, then if I go ahead and bevel, you will notice that it's beveling like this, or even if I choose group polygons, it's going to bevel like this. This is no good. So what I have to make sure is that when I have something like this, when I have some, if I have something like this, where this polygon edge is not straight, then I can easily just go ahead and just select all these polygons here. I can go into Scale tool by pressing R, and then I can scale this to 0. And now I know that this line is perfectly flat here, or this plane here. And then if I go ahead and just use the bevel tool, then I can bevel in one direction. Now this is also true whenever you're beveling just edges, or whenever you're extruding edges or doing anything fancy like that. If your edges are not perfectly straight, sometimes again the bevel tool will freak out. It happens from time to time. Usually it freaks out whenever you have a single polygon, and right now I really should have. I'm going to go ahead and just undo that again. I'm going to go and make sure I have grouped polygons on. And of course, what you might have seen earlier is that when I delete these polygons, I had some of these edges being connected. That's because I extruded every single one of these polygons as individual pieces, so they actually had walls around them. Okay, so I have that portion extruded. Now what I'm going to need is I'm going to need this portion here. I'm going to go ahead and just go into the top view, so you could easily just go to top over here, and then go to basic. And you know what, you could even go to geometry and just find primitive cylinder. And I'm just going to go ahead and just draw out my cylinder and place it exactly where I need it. And at this point in time, you know what, before I actually go ahead and do that, the one thing I want to know for sure is if this is placed more or less 50%. And you know what, the way I'm looking at it, if I look at, for example, 4 squares and just a tiny bit here, 4 squares and tiny bit here, this is more or less in the center. I think I might have actually placed it in the center. So basically what this means is that I have to make sure that this cylinder here that I have created and of course the reason why I wasn't able to select it is because the cylinder, this shape that I drew here, its normal was facing down. So even though I see it here, I cannot select it. I have to go onto this side, and I have to select this side because, of course, this object is one-sided. So with that done, I can easily just go into, for now, I can just go ahead and just extrude. So I'm just going to go once again to Mesh Edit, Bevel, or Extrude. So, let me just choose Extrude and just extrude upwards. Now, for now, I'm not really concerned about making sure that this lines up just yet. The reason, of course, I'm not really concerned is because I can always just bridge later. So for now, I could easily just select all this just by double clicking. I can, of course, just go ahead and just scale this up, move it until it's more or less in the center. And then, of course, go to top view and making sure that this vertex here is more or less aligned with that. So I'm just going to go ahead and just make sure I'm in my action center is automatic. Zoom in really close and just do something like that. Or what I could do is I could just go ahead and just use the snap tools and snap this vertex here to that there, and I'll know that, for example, that this is actually perfectly lined up. Let's go to basic. Let's go to snaps and precision, drag snap rigid. Let's go ahead and just snap that to that right there. So close enough. Now I know that these are perfectly aligned. And what I could do now is I could just move it up like that. And even a little bit away. And that is pretty good. The only thing I'm kind of worried right now is that I'm not really sure if I created this to be a perfect circle. So there's a few tools that you could use to create a perfect circle. I actually think I might have done a little bit of a mistake. But again, always check that this is a perfect circle. Again, I think there's a script that I have that creates perfect circles. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just use that script. What I would recommend for you, however, guys, to do is just go ahead and just create a new mesh. Make sure that you go to Geometry, Primitive, Cylinder. And when you're drawing the cylinder, just press Control. And that way you know that, for example, that this is a perfect cylinder. And of course, just make sure that the radius is all the same across all these. Not necessarily all of them, because in this case, Y doesn't have to be the same as the rest of them. But just the X and Z should be the same in this case, especially in the top view, and you'll know that you'll have a perfect cylinder here. In my case, I just used a script to kind of fix it up. And you know what? I probably should just go ahead and delete it, because as you can see, these lines are not perfectly aligned. So forget about that, and I'm just going to go with the method that I just explained a few seconds ago. Now I know that I'm kind of going in a roundabout right now, but considering that more than one user can actually make this mistake, I thought I would not, go back and re-record some of this section. So I'm just going to go ahead and stick with it, stick with what I have, mistakes or not. Just going to go ahead and just resizing some of this here. And again, this right now doesn't have to be perfect. It's perfectly okay, because I can always just rescale some of this up later. So now that I know that these are perfect circles, I can very easily, well, first of all, I'm going to have to flip the normals. As you can see right now, all the lines are pointing inwards. And on this object, all the lines are pointing outwards. So I'm just going to go ahead and just select this. I'm going to go ahead and just press F to make sure that all the lines or all the normals are pointing outwards. And now I could easily select the top and bottom line here. And for now, I'm just going to go ahead and just go to Bevel. And of course, you guys by now should know where polygon bevel is. I'm just going to bevel just a little bit here. And then I'm going to go ahead and just go to polygon bridge, click, and of course you should get a result like that. All right, perfect. So next up for me is to go ahead and just merge this up. So I'm going to merge this with this. So first thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to make sure that this here is moved slightly more to the side. And of course, the reason why I'm doing that is because I want to make sure that this is more or less in line with this. The distance here is close enough to that. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the closer the better. Of course, once that's done, I'm just going to go ahead and just select this, press F to create a new polygon. I'm going to subdivide these. I'm going to connect these edges here. And now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 edges. And I want to select 1, 2, 3, 4 edges here, or polygons here. So 4 polygons on this side, 4 polygons on this side. And then just go ahead and just choose bridge. So again, polygon bridge. And you have something like this. Now this is important. And what I mean is, the thing that's important is that both the cylinder and the overall wrench had to be on one object. If, for example, I'm just going to go ahead and undo this, and I'm going to go ahead and just cut this object and paste it on another layer. If I have my object like this, where my main wrench is on one object here, my cylinder is on another, and then I go ahead and just select these, I can still select the polygons. That's not a problem. But when I go ahead and just go to polygon bridge, you'll notice that nothing's happening. What's going on? Well, the reason why it's not working is because these are completely separate meshes and it cannot connect one mesh, one item to another item. So you need to make sure that these are all one item. So as you can see here, the lettering here is black, meaning that this layer here has in fact some information contained in it. And of course, both these parts, both these islands, mesh islands, being the main wrench, and this part over here is of course in one piece. So I'm just going to go ahead and just bridge now. And here we go. So I know that that was kind of a long explanation, but I think I've gone into a few things here that I feel they're kind of important. So, you know, I went into it for that reason. So anyways, we have the wrench more or less finished as far as the shape goes. The only thing we need to do now is just edit the shape to give it more, you know, just a nicer look. So let's go ahead and just select all these edges here. And then press Alt-L to select the edge ring. And then go ahead and split it by 50%. And of course, the reason why I wanted to do that is because I just wanted to have more edges to play here. And I'm just going to go ahead and just press Tab and see how my shape is looking. It's looking okay, it's not perfect. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and just try to tighten up this edge right here. So let's go ahead and do that. Select all these. Move them down here. Do the same thing to the other side. I'd always try to make sure that I work with both sides as much as I can. And of course now I'm just going to go ahead and just select all these lines here. Like that. And that is okay-ish. I'm going to go ahead and just deselect these two. Go back into Edge Slide. Deselect a few lines that I feel are close enough. Use Slide again. And you know what? And that's not too bad. So next up, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and just join these lines here. Like that. Alright, perfect. Now, the one thing I really don't like right now is I still don't like these two triangles here. What I could do is I could, of course, just do something like this, where I could just add more edges here. And then connect these up like that, and delete this. Now I could go into the top view and make sure that I do something like that. And of course now we have perfect quads, which is, well, perfect. So I'm going to go once again into my tab view. I look at it, it's starting to look a little bit better. But the one thing I still don't like about this is, well, quite frankly right now, these are still triangles. These edges are not connected. So you know what, for now I could go ahead and just delete half the portion have the bottom portion of this model, but for now I'm just going to leave it. I'll delete it just in a few minutes. So for now I want to go ahead and just extrude this portion here away. I want to make sure if I go ahead and just look at my previous tool, our previous objects, you will notice that there is in fact this slight extrusion here. So I'm just going to go ahead and just apply that to my other object as well. I'm going to go ahead and just select all this. And then I'm going to press Shift and up to select that. And then I'm going to go ahead and just go into Bevel. Like this. And let's try to smooth once again. Just press Tab. And this is actually getting a lot nicer. I'm definitely liking this a lot better. Next thing, of course, that I could do is I could easily move some of these edges a little bit lower. And of course, the reason why I want to do that is because it's going to give me a much nicer result in terms of curvature down here. So let's go ahead and just try to do that again. You notice that the curvature here is a little bit longer than over here. It's a little bit less tight. And of course, if I want it to be even a little bit longer still, I could easily just choose these lines and just move them slightly further back. Like that, and just try to smooth them out again. And you know what? That's not too bad. So I could, of course, do the same thing here. Like that. Move these lines here slightly lower. Like that. And again, smooth. That looks okay. And now I guess what I could do is I could go ahead and just delete the bottom portion of this wrench. So I'm just going to go ahead and just go into polygon mode. I'm going to drag and select with my middle click right across like this. And then I'm going to go ahead and just press the delete key on my keyboard. And then once I'm done with that, and you know what, let me just turn off the older wrench. I'm going to go ahead and just go into the front view here, or whatever your side view is. It really doesn't matter. I could easily just choose front, right, or any of the other viewports. And right now, there's something I completely forgot, and that is this portion right here. I'm just going to go back into perspective, and you'll notice that I just selected this portion here. And that is because I had the entire model split all the way around except the inside here. So let me do that right now. I'm going to go ahead and just select some of these, press up on my keyboard, and then just go ahead and just use the loop slice right across the center portion of the model. And now I'm going to try to delete that, and there we go. Perfectly clean. So let's once again go into the front view, and let's mirror this onto the other side. So let's just go ahead and just use duplicate, mirror, click anywhere in the viewport, choose Y in this case. And we have something like this, which isn't too bad. And right now it's kind of snapping to the viewport, so I'm going to have a little bit of a problem with this. But I guess I could always just go to snap to world axes and turn it off. And then I can easily move this up till it, just moves closer to this object here. Now, of course, I could always just go into basic snaps and precision, and then I could just use the snap, drag snap rigid, and then go in like that, and just try to align it as close as possible. So once this has been done, I'm just going to go ahead and just choose both portion of the models. And I'm going to go ahead and just go to Vertex, Merge Tool. And again, because of the fact that I have the entire model selected, and then I went to Merge Tool, what happened as a result is that whatever polygons were merged were deselected. Of course, that's important. And of course, we have a little bit of a problem here. Not much of a problem, because what I could do is I could, basically what happened was that these lines here were not going across 100% down the center. They weren't aligned perfectly with the rest of the object. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to scale all these points down to 0 and then merge them afterwards. So go ahead and just choose vertices, go into one of your side views, select by middle, clicking and dragging all the way across like this, going into your scale tool, scale down on the Y, make sure it's zeroed out, so Y is 0 in this case. And now all the points are down in the center, so I'm going to go once again into polygon mode. I'm going to middle click and drag until the entire model is selected. Then when I go to merge tool and click and just drag until the distance is 0, it's going to once again deselect the polygons that have been merged. And now if I double click on the model, you'll notice that the entire thing is being merged. Everything is perfectly fine. And if I go ahead and just tab on my viewport, you'll notice that both sides of this model are looking very, very nice. The only thing we still need to take care of is this section here.